Hey guys, check it out. We're right now standing in front of the Caspian Sea. Let's walk to it. There it is. Let's walk towards it. Hey guys, hope you're well. You might remember a few months ago I traveled to Iran, and when I was there I made a video for you about a potential bear market cycle that's going to come our way, and also a major economic depression that is likely coming our way as well. So in this video I'm going to explain to you the reasons behind why we're heading towards a major bear market cycle and an economic depression from a technical perspective. Also, I'm going to reveal to you when I think this major bear market cycle is going to start, so the likely time period for when this bear market is going to start. Alright guys, join me. Now, before we start this video, I know what you might be thinking, because from the title of this video, I know you might think, well, it sounds a bit clickbaity, because yeah, it is true. We're talking about a bear market crash. It sounds sensational. And yeah, it is true. There are a lot of articles and videos out there that make sensational, over-dramatic headlines about a crash and a bear market. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of clickbait out there about a potential bear market crash, because I want to make this very clear. What I'm going to talk about in this video is something that I take very seriously. In fact, I'm going to try my best to explain to you why I think a bear market cycle is very likely, potentially in the very near future. And in fact, in this video, I want to explain to you why and when this bear market downtrend cycle could start, how long it could last, and I want to explain to you why this book could be very important to you for the next few years. Let's get started. All right, guys, so I have behind me, as you can see here, the Caspian Sea in the north of Iran. And I thought this would be a perfect example or metaphor for what I want to talk about with you here in this video. You see, guys, just like where the sea, like the Caspian Sea here, has waves, the markets, or indeed, I should say price action, also forms waves. In fact, this is what's called Elliott wave theory. You might have heard about Elliott wave theory, which essentially says that price or markets move in the direction of the major trend in 5 waves. Wave 3 usually being the longest, and wave 5 being the final wave, before a major correction occurs, what's called an ABC correction, as you can see here on this chart. Now, you might ask, why do these waves form? You know, why does the markets form waves? In fact, just like what you see here. Well, the waves are formed because of human behavior, or the behavior of the crowd, the behavior of market participants. You see, guys, what often people forget is that markets are emotional creatures. Essentially, the waves and the movements in the markets occur due to the actions, the behavior of people, of human beings. Because human beings are emotional creatures, because we are emotional and irrational beings, that is the reason why the markets are often irrational and why they sometimes just don't make any sense. So yeah, these waves you see here on this chart, the Elliott waves, are formed due to emotional actions of human beings. So that's why the market often goes through cycles of speculation, greedy speculation, which leads to excitement and euphoria, and of course then you have the eventual crash. You have the eventual major meltdowns and collapses in the market, which leads to other emotions like anxiety, panic, and capitulation. And here's the thing, guys, just like how the waves, the sea or the ocean are chaotic and non-linear, the same thing applies to the markets. The markets are also chaotic and non-linear. So that's why chaos theory teaches us that non-linear, chaotic markets are very difficult to predict. Now, let me draw your attention to this book you see here, written by Robert Prechter, who is one of the best experts on Elliott wave theory. He's written this book called Conquer the Crash. By the way, guys, I highly recommend, the one thing you do probably this year is get this book and read it, because this probably is going to be the most important book you'll read for the next few years, potentially the next decade. Essentially, Robert Prechter in this book explains the technical and the fundamental reason why we're going to experience a major crash in the markets, potentially in the next few years. Here's the bottom line. Robert Prechter explains that, look, we've been in a multi-year, multi-decade bull market, as you can see here, going back to the 19th century. As you can see here, this is a 120-year chart of the stock market. This chart goes all the way back to the 19th century, to 1897, for example, here. And then we can see the major rally of the 1920s, which eventually led to the major crash, the Wall Street crash of 1929, and then the major depression of the 1930s, which I'm sure you're very familiar with from your history books. So here's the thing. In the 30s, we experienced a major depression and an 89% crash in the stock market. The markets dropped by 89% on the Dow. And according to Elliott wave theory, this entire wave up and wave down were the waves 1 and 2 of a major multi-decade, multi-year bull cycle. And when that bear cycle ended, when that major crash finally bottomed out and ended, we started a major wave 3, which took us all the way from 1932, the bottom on the stock market, all the way to the year 2000, the major dot-com bubble. Okay, that's where essentially wave 3 topped, and then we had an ABC correction. You can see there we had a major ABC correction for about a decade. In fact, you can see that correction right there on the chart, the ABC wave, which lasted from 2000 and all the way to the year 2009, which bottomed out for the wave 4. All right, guys, let me talk to you now about how this story gets more interesting. You see, you're probably asking yourself, okay, so where are we in this multi-decade, multi-year bull market? Which wave are we in? Well, the author of this book, again, Robert Prechter, the author of Conquering the Crash, he argues that we are very likely in the final wave, in the wave 5 of this multi-decade, multi-year bull market, which started at the start of the 20th century, probably the end of the 19th century. As I'm speaking right now, the S&P is above 4,000. By the way, guys, check out this amazing view over here. Beautiful palm trees here in the north of Iran. Okay, so essentially what Robert Prechter, one of the best Elliott wave technicians in the world, argues is that we're very likely in the final wave, in the wave 5 of this multi-decade, a century-long bull market. And not only that, but that we're in the wave 5 of this wave 5. So if you think about it, this wave 5 you're seeing here, the multi-decade mega wave 5 upward trend, this is also composed of 5 waves. And within this wave 5, we're very likely in the final wave of this wave 5. In other words, we're very likely to be in the final wave, the wave 5 of this bigger wave 5. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So I guess you could say in simple terms, we are in the final wave of the final wave, the wave 5 of the wave 5 of this multi-decade bull market. And that means when this wave 5 completes, which is likely to, I think very likely in the next couple of years, then we will start the next major correction, a major drawdown retracement on the stock markets. Now again, some chartists are much more bearish than I am. They think it's going to happen. They think the ABC major correction is going to happen this year. In other words, start this year. They think the bear market will start this year. I'm not that bearish. I think actually that's incorrect. In the previous video, I've already explained why I think it's too soon for a bear market to start this year. Hey guys, Alessio from the future here. I just want to quickly interrupt this video to let you know that the time period that I have for this major bear market cycle, in other words, the most likely time period when I think this bear market downtrend is going to start, I have it between September of next year, September of 2022, to potentially June of 2023. Now, if I had to narrow it down a little bit, I would say the optimal time period is likely between September to October of next year, September, October of 2022. But again, I'm looking at time window between September of 2022 to October 2023. Now, I should say, there is no guarantee or certainty about this time period because it could happen sooner or later in this time period. But all my analysis is telling me right now that that's the most likely time period for this major bear market cycle, potentially in the next 12 to 18 months. All right, guys, let's get back to the video. And also, before a bear market begins, you often see incredible euphoria and a lot of speculative activity. Now, you might argue, well, there is a lot of speculative activity happening right now. That's true. However, the data shows there's still a lot of money on the sidelines. So it's not like everybody has joined on the stock market rally just yet. But I think that will happen. So I want to make this very clear. I still think there's a lot more gains to come on the stock markets in the next few years. Now, there may be a correction in the meantime. There may be a pullback in the meantime before we head higher. But the bottom line is that I still think it's too early to call for a bear market, the kind of bear market that we're talking about in this video, to start this year. No, I think that could potentially happen in the next few years, potentially by the year 2023. By the way, guys, I want to make this very clear. The kind of bear market cycle that Robert Prechter is talking about in this book, Conquering the Crash, is not the type of bear market cycle you would see normally, like a 10-20% correction or drop. No, he's talking about a major correction, like a 80% drop or crash in the stock markets. So, in other words, we're going to probably experience a bear market that is similar, if not worse, than the one we experienced in the Great Depression of the 30s. So we're talking about a major correction, which essentially is going to eviscerate and eliminate a lot of the gains that were made in the last few years, or the last decade, in fact. So eventually, when the stock market collapses, it's quite likely we'll see a 50 to 80% crash in the stock markets on the S&P. And here's the thing, and this crash is not going to be short, okay? It's going to take a very long time. So it's not like a one and done deal thing. It's going to take at least several years, potentially 5, maybe even 10 years before this entire bear market finally unfolds and ends, which means that we could be in this bear market probably by the end of the 2020s, by the end of this decade. Now, you might ask, what could trigger such a terrible event? You know, what could trigger this bear market, right? Now, as you guys know, I'm not a fundamentals guy, I'm a technicals guy. However, if you're into fundamentals, then Robert Prechter does explain the reasons for this. By the way, I should just say, Robert Prechter is not sponsoring this video, okay? So I only mention his book because I think he's a great guy and because he's a very knowledgeable and intelligent person I quite like. I should add that Robert Prechter believes that one of the major reasons why we might experience a bear market cycle is because a financial crisis may occur. Similar, if not worse, to the one we experienced in 2008. But guys, listen, these are all fundamental questions. As a technical person looking at the charts indicate that we're likely in the final wave, the wave 5 of this multi-decade bull market, and potentially we're in the wave 5 of 5, and eventually we're going to experience an ABC type correction next few years. In other words, according to this interpretation, we're actually in the wave 3 of this multi-decade bull market, but we're in the final wave of this wave 3, the wave 5 of wave 3. Sorry if this confuses you a little bit, but essentially in plain language, this suggests that we're in the final wave of this wave 3, of this multi-decade wave 3, before the next major ABC wave 4 correction occurs. And that wave 4, that ABC correction, is going to be pretty big. Again, potentially a 50% to 80% drop in the markets. The fact is, guys, whichever interpretation is the one that occurs, we're still very likely going to experience a major bear market downtrend meltdown cycle, potentially in the next few years. And that bear market cycle could take us several years to finally complete. Now, in a separate video, by the way, guys, I'll explain to you what I think are the biggest dangers of this bear market cycle, because there are many consequences to this and potentially quite a lot of dangers and risks as well. By the way, guys, another important reason I mentioned this book is because there's actual chapters dedicated, as you can see here, to what a trader might do or what people may do during a bear market cycle, during a depression. For example, some of the chapters are labeled, you know, should one buy cryptos, should one buy gold or stocks, which markets are the biggest risk during a bear market cycle. But guys, I mentioned before, this book could be very useful to you for potentially the next 5 to 10 years. Hey guys, before I finish the video, I just want to say something very quickly. Now, in case you're thinking this video is too technical and is mostly just based on charts, let me just tell you that we have now independent evidence, corroborating evidence, that we're likely heading towards a bear market. In fact, I made a video for you about this some weeks ago. If you recall, in this video, I actually pointed out this chart, courtesy of Jason Geppert, that there is now independent evidence, corroborating evidence of a potential bear market cycle. As you can see here on this chart, the last time we had this signal was back in 2007. This chart shows a spread between bear market probability and economic models. And this chart is giving us a warning for the first time since 2007 that very likely we're getting closer to a bear market, very likely in the next 12 to 18 months, probably in the time period I mentioned in this video. Hey guys, check it out. We're right now standing in front of the Caspian Sea. Let's walk to it. So essentially what you see there is the Caspian Coast. We're just going to walk towards it. And just in case you're wondering, we're in a little village, a little small town called Daryoshar, which essentially means sea town, or maybe Ocean City, something like that. There it is. Let's walk towards it. And right over here, guys, you can see the Caspian Sea. Looks pretty amazing. By the way, guys, right across there, if you took a boat all the way till the end, you'll probably come across Russia. All right, so we got Russia down there, maybe Azerbaijan down here. And by the way, to all our viewers in Russia, как дела? Хорошо? All right, guys, so from the Caspian Coast, north of Iran, have a fantastic week. See you guys in the next video update. Cheers.